They say some men break when the system comes for them. Others, they crack it wide open from the inside. That night, Isaiah Mercer wasn't looking for trouble, just heading home, loosened tie, deal closed, future bright. The city lights were a faint glow behind him, the open Georgia road humming low under his tires. His Bluetooth crackled to life. Sienna Blake, his lawyer, friend, sometimes the only damn person in his corner, teasing him about celebrating too hard. He chuckled. Life was good. For about 5 more minutes. Then came the lights, red and blue, flashing like a death sentence. His stomach dropped. Not from guilt, no. He'd done nothing wrong. It was something deeper, older. An instinct passed down like trauma. Tighten your hands on the wheel, stay calm, don't move too fast. But deep down, Isaiah already knew. This wasn't a routine stop. The officer who stepped out of that cruiser? Deputy Reese Dalton, a name that echoed through the black neighborhoods like a threat, not a protector. A man with too many complaints, too few consequences. Isaiah rolled the window down, calm, polite, textbook. But Dalton wasn't here for conversation. He ordered Isaiah out of the car. No reason, no charges, no rights read. Just violence, immediate and casual. The moment his foot hit the pavement, Dalton shoved him into the side of his car. Isaiah's ribs slammed into metal, breath knocked clean from his lungs. A planted gold watch followed, tossed in plain view, like a magician's final trick. Isaiah barely whispered, "That's not mine." Dalton just smiled, said, "Guess you'll have to explain that in court, Mercer." And just like that, 8 years of Isaiah's life vanished, swallowed up in a courtroom where Judge Barrett Langston sat high on his throne, dripping with Southern pride and quiet bigotry. A man who didn't see defendants, just quotas. Langston didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, didn't even pretend to hear Sienna's motion about racial profiling and misconduct. He waved it off with a sigh, like she was inconveniencing his lunch break. Isaiah got 8 years. 8. For a crime he didn't commit. For a watch he'd never seen. For daring to be successful in black in the wrong zip code after sunset. But here's the part they didn't know. Isaiah Mercer wasn't just a businessman. He was a former combat strategist, ex-special reconnaissance, 5 tours, 2 continents, and more classified ops than he could talk about without disappearing. He'd trained in the desert until his sweat turned to salt and his hands blistered raw from rope climbs and rifle grips. He'd learned how to survive betrayal, how to think 6 moves ahead, how to disappear in plain sight, and how to come back when no one expected it. He never bragged. Never told anyone about the night his unit was ambushed in Kandahar and he dragged 2 men out under fire. Never explained why he always sat with his back to the wall or why loud bangs made his fingers twitch. But the lessons? They stuck. So when he sat in that cell, surrounded by concrete and silence, he didn't waste time feeling sorry for himself. He watched, he listened, and he planned. What the system didn't realize was, Isaiah wasn't alone. Because while they were busy patting themselves on the back, someone on the inside was watching too. Officer Lena Torres, a rookie, Latina, 2 years on the force. She saw what happened the night Isaiah was arrested. She filed a quiet complaint, got reassigned to parking detail 2 days later. But she didn't back down. She knew Dalton's record. She knew something was wrong. And when the Internal Affairs Office wouldn't listen, she reached out to someone who would. Sienna Blake. Sienna didn't just file an appeal, she went digging. She subpoenaed dashcam footage, lost. She requested Dalton's body cam, malfunctioned. But she didn't stop. And one night, nearly a year later, she got an email from an untraceable account. Attached? A recording. It was grainy, compressed, but clear enough. Judge Langston's voice, Deputy Dalton's voice. Plant the watch, book him, no need to get fancy, he fits the profile. The system wasn't just broken, it was rigged. The next morning it hit the news. First a small local blog, then Reddit, then a firestorm. And suddenly the people who'd turned a blind eye started turning on each other. The police chief, red-faced on live TV, called for a full investigation. The mayor issued a statement about healing trust. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag justice for Mercer. Expose. Langston. Systemic rot protesters stood outside the courthouse where Isaiah had been sentenced. CNN picked it up. Fox twisted it. TikTok ran wild. Overnight, Isaiah became a symbol. Half hero, half scapegoat. But not everyone was cheering. Death threats started trickling in. Anonymous calls, broken windows, warnings carved into his front porch with a box cutter. Sienna started carrying a firearm. Officer Torres got pulled off duty for her own safety. And Isaiah? Isaiah was released after 8 months. A technicality, they said. Temporary. Under review. But he walked out of that prison gate to flashing cameras and deafening noise. People shouting his name, people demanding justice, people asking for interviews. And through it all, he stayed quiet. Because Isaiah wasn't done. He knew what was coming next. Grand jury hearings, internal reviews, media spin. He knew Langston would play innocent. Dalton would blame the department. Politicians would tweet and move on. But Isaiah? He was already building something bigger. Behind closed doors, with a war map of documents, timelines, whistleblowers, and digital traces, Isaiah Mercer was preparing to burn the whole thing down. And you haven't even seen the second half yet. Let me tell you what happened next. A week after Isaiah walked free, the city was no longer the same, at least, not to him. He couldn't walk 2 blocks without someone stopping him. Some people hugged him. Some whispered, "We're proud of you." Others just stared, unsure whether he was a cautionary tale or a revolution. Reporters camped outside his brownstone. His face made the cover of national magazines, Time, Rolling Stone, even the front page of the Times with a headline that read, "From Inmate to Icon, the Man Who Made a System Tremble." But Isaiah didn't feel like a hero. He hadn't slept right in weeks. The nights were quiet, too quiet. And when they weren't, they were filled with the kind of sounds you don't forget. Metal doors slamming, men screaming, chains dragging against concrete. He sat through 5 interviews, 3 press conferences, 2 speaking panels at universities where professors called him the spark of a new civil rights movement. And yet, when he looked in the mirror, he still saw the man who was pushed against a cruiser and called a thief. Meanwhile, everything was falling apart behind the scenes. The internal police tribunal opened with fanfare, but quickly turned ugly. Officer Dalton's attorney painted him as a scapegoat, claimed body cam footage was doctored, claimed Isaiah resisted subtly, whatever that meant. But it was Judge Langston's turn on the stand that shifted the air. He walked in wearing a 3-piece suit like he still ran the room, but his hands shook. His smile faltered. And then, the prosecution hit play on the audio file. Langston's voice, cold, casual. "They always stand tall at first. Doesn't matter. We'll break him like the rest." The room froze. You could feel it, the public mask ripping off in real time. But even as the evidence mounted, there were those still defending him. A group of retired judges wrote an open letter, calling Langston a misunderstood man. One local news anchor called Isaiah dangerous, said he was fueling anti-police rhetoric. Dissent crackled across social media, comments flooding in, arguments raging. Families split at dinner tables. Protesters clashed downtown. That's the part they don't tell you. Justice doesn't unite. It divides. And Isaiah? He stood in the middle of it all, stuck in a brutal dilemma. Sienna wanted him to testify again. Officer Torres begged him to speak out, expose every layer of the corruption. But Isaiah wasn't sure, because deep down, he had a choice. He could blow the whole thing open, ruin lives, take down every name tied to the cover-up. Or he could walk away, keep his peace, start over. He spent nights staring out his window, scrolling through hate mail and fan mail alike. Some people offered him book deals. Others sent him photoshopped nooses. Then one night something changed. A man named Elijah Doucet showed up at his doorstep. Older, quiet, ex-con, long beard, and a gentle voice that didn't match the ink on his knuckles. He said, "You don't know me, but I know what they did to you. They did it to me too. In '89, back when cameras didn't save us." Isaiah sat with him for hours, just listening. And when Elijah left, he left behind a box. Inside, faded case files, letters, testimonies from inmates who'd all been sentenced under Judge Langston. Dozens of them. Some dead, some missing, some still inside. That was the moment Isaiah realized this was never just about him. So he made a decision. He took that box, the digital records, the recorded conversations, and brought them straight to Detective Rachel Mercer, head of the State Oversight Committee, a woman with a record of going after judicial misconduct. No hesitation, no compromise. And that's when the real storm hit. Courtroom after courtroom reopened. Langston was charged with perjury, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit civil rights violations. Dalton, sentenced to life without parole. And dozens of former convicts, men and women, were exonerated. Some walked free after decades. The city changed, slowly, painfully, but visibly. The police chief resigned. The mayor was voted out. A community oversight board was established. And Officer Lena Torres, promoted to internal affairs, where she vowed to never let another Mercer happen on my watch. But none of that came easy. Isaiah received threats. His car was keyed. Once someone left a fake grenade on his porch. He started carrying again. Not because he wanted to, but because peace, in this country, always came at a price. And yet, he didn't hide. He started a foundation, the Mercer Initiative, offering legal aid to wrongfully accused individuals, held town halls, taught workshops in underserved high schools. And every Sunday, without fail, he visited a quiet cemetery just outside of town, where his father, a Korean war vet, and the man who taught him everything about dignity, was buried. He would kneel, press a hand to the stone, and whisper, "We're not done, Pop. Not yet." The last time he visited, a teenage boy approached him, nervous, shaking. "You're Isaiah Mercer, right? I'm thinking about going into law. You think I got a shot?" Isaiah smiled, tired but warm. "Kid, after everything I've seen, I think you're exactly what this world needs." And then he turned, walked back to his car, and drove into a city that still didn't know what to do with a man like him. Not a criminal, not a victim, not a hero, just a man who wouldn't stay silent. You tell me, would you have fought back? Would you have forgiven? Or would you have burned the whole thing down too? Let me know in the comments. Because stories like this aren't just stories, they're warnings. And the next Isaiah might be watching this right now. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell us in the comments, what does justice mean to you? We'll be reading every word.